keeping thousands of people on the same page or managing projects from start to finish, Atlassian works to unleash the potential of all types of teams with collaboration software. More at Atlassian.com. And Reddit and WBUR presenting Endless Thread, the podcast that brings stories discovered on Reddit to you each week. A wide range of tales told with intelligence and humor. Endless Thread, available on Apple Podcasts. From NPR and WBUR, I'm Tanya Mosley. It's Here and Now. Friends and colleagues are remembering Democratic Congressman Elijah E. Cummings, who died early this morning. A Baltimore mainstay and vocal critic of the Trump administration, Cummings served as the chairman of the House Oversight and Reform Committee. At a hearing for President Trump's former personal lawyer Michael Cohen in February, Cummings said this about integrity.
When we're dancing with the angels, the question will be asked, in 2019, what do we do to make sure we kept our democracy intact? Did we stand on the sidelines and say nothing?
I spoke this morning with Eleanor Holmes Norton, who represents the District of Columbia in Congress, who knew Cummings for decades, about her thoughts on his unexpected passing.
My thoughts today are, of course, with his family, but rise above that to what a terrible time to lose Elijah. We are in the midst of impeachment hearings. Our Committee Oversight and Government Reform is, as I speak, one of the three committees hearing closed testimony as part of the impeachment inquiry. Just last week, he had a conference call with members of the Oversight Committee and gave us every reason to believe that he was doing well. That's why this is such a shockingly sad day for the Congress of the United States today.
And he had weathered many storms. Of course, he was a very vocal Trump critic, but also the Freddie Gray riots, even rocks and bottles trying to integrate a whites-only pool as a kid. What would Congressman Cummings want us to remember, to take from his life and his legacy?
Well, I wouldn't dare to say, but I can tell you that for many of us, it's been a life of service and sacrifice. Yes, he grew up in segregated Baltimore, just down the road from what was then segregated D.C., so we have a special kinship. Elijah went to Howard University. He was chairing the Oversight and Government Reform Committee at a time when the district is seeking to become the 51st state. I'm so sorry he didn't live to see this bill pass Congress as it will, given the efforts he's put into this specific issue.
Yes, he will.
Leaders in this Congress with that stature, with that kind of spirit to what the Congress is going through today with the impeachment inquiry and all of that is for the Congress.
Eleanor Holmes Norton, she represents Washington, D.C. and Congress.
Of course.
You're listening to Here and Now. Most prominent charities and his daughter. Now the daughter says she's seeking help and closure. There was a moment of humanity there that I will not forget on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Tomorrow from 5 to 9 on WHRY. I'm Jack Lepial. Top-level meetings between the U.S. and Turkey have concluded with no immediate word on a possible ceasefire in northern Syria. Vice President Mike Pence met with Turkey's leader, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for more than 4 hours today as the leader tries to pressure the country into calling off an offensive against Kurdish measures at the border. Pence promised won a contested seat on the UN an effort to prevent attacks from happening. Treasury bonds. Freddie Mac says the average rate on 30-year fixed-rate mortgages is now 3.69%. That is up from 3.57 a week ago. You're listening to Here and Now. Here and Now continues at 8:45. It's 1:39.
WHYY from Haverford School, a main school for pre-K through grade 12. For 135 years, Haverford has been dedicated to educating boys and helping them develop in academics, the arts, athletics, and in character. Open their Safe Start Middle School Fall 2020. Learn more on Wednesday, October 23rd for the Middle School and Upper School Fall Open House. To schedule a personal visit, inquire at haverford.org/events. Supporting WHYY The Barns. How did 30 artists change the way we think about contemporary art? Opening October 27th at the Barns, the exhibition 30 Americans spotlights influential African-American artists of the past 4 decades, including Jean-Michel Basquiat, Mickalene Thomas, Kara Walker, Kehinde Wiley, and more. After 10 years traveling the U.S. with over 1 million viewers, 30 Americans finally comes to Philadelphia, opening October 27th. Tickets and tours at barnesfoundation.org.
Funding for Here and Now comes from the listeners of WBUR Boston and your NPR station. From the Museum of Science in Boston, providing pre-K through grade 12 engineering curricula from We Engineer to Engineering the Future, with teacher guides, storybooks, kits, and videos, all designed to fuel dynamic STEM education. More at MOS.org. And NPR in Morning Edition, on this station tomorrow morning, what happened while you were sleeping, and the news, interviews, and analysis for the day ahead. National, international, and local news, tomorrow on Morning Edition.
It's Here and Now. This morning, we paid a visit to some fellow Americans.
And that's the way we love it. All talk, no action. Hey, welcome aboard. I'm Charlie Stone, Jeff on the other side of the window, and you found Open Line.
This was a return visit to Charlie Stone's popular and very conservative talk show, Open Line, on KSCJ in Sioux City, Iowa. In this moment, an impeachment inquiry heating up, anger, especially from Republican lawmakers like Lindsey Graham, over President Trump's abandonment of the Kurds in Syria. We wondered, what were these fierce Trump supporters thinking? We'll post our whole visit at hereandnow.org, but essentially, the listeners, corrected me on what they thought was my misinterpretation of the news. I did the same, but we were both civil, and they were upset. These are Americans who think that their president is under attack, their vote is being discounted. Let's start with host Charlie Stone.
When this impeachment thing came up, I said, from the day he came down the escalator, there has been stuff thrown at him constantly. And we are in the middle of Trump territory, as you well know.
Yeah.
And I said, this particular one bothers me because this is a bone that the people that are anti-Trump can really chomp onto. Now, having said that, over the last few months, people that I know of have sort of just stopped arguing. They are Trumpsters. They will vote for him again. And they are done and frustrated with trying to talk to those on the other side who they feel, and I somewhat agree, are making things up out of whole cloth. The quid pro quo implication of using his office to influence a foreign nation. Part of the president's job, and we all know it, was in the 2016 election. There was, I think even you would agree, some hanky-panky going on from global influences.
I would agree. The Russians absolutely interfered in the election.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably will begin in 2020.
You know, I would ask you to go back to the writing in 2016, to the reporting before anybody. As I said, we respectfully exchange viewpoints, but these listeners were extremely skeptical even of facts like the transcript of the president's phone call to the Ukrainian president that launched the impeachment inquiry. Here's a caller who called himself Yeoman.
What the trend, what people, a lot of neighbors, friends, people think out here on the whole impeachment, that is a fiasco by the deep state to take out a duly elected president. Whether you like Trump, whether you love him or hate him, it is the deep state that is not happy that he won, that absolutely had the deck stacked to where Hillary was going to win. They couldn't believe that their systems failed, and that the flyover, the people spoke and said, no, we want somebody that's not a politician for a change.
Syria, how do you feel about the pullout in Syria?
Absolutely great. Absolutely. We have no business over there. That's one thing that Trump was elected to do, was get us out of the endless wars. 18 years in Afghanistan. The most powerful force, the most powerful part of that deep state, and they're all in bed with each other. Part of that is the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us against when he gave his farewell address. And isn't it amazing how the Democratic Party, which used to be, oh, we're against war, and now Trump wants to take us out, and all of a sudden, oh, they're all for staying in that war.
I think, can I just jump in? Let me just jump in. I hear everything you're saying. Some would say that, you know, the war in Iraq based on false discussion was appalling. But in this case, there's just so many different questions. First of all, a unilateral decision to pull out, not telling even the Pentagon. A decision based on a phone call with an autocrat in Turkey. A decision when U.S. troops, yes, they are precious, and they're still there. And now we have Turkey invading. What if U.S. troops get in the middle of that? And then the last point, these are the Kurds who fought ISIS. Any loss of life is horrendous. We did lose some troops there, but our troops mainly in combat there, they were backing up the Kurds who were the Kurds lost 10,000 fighters taking down ISIS. I don't know. My dad was a Marine. I think he's rolling, you know, right now. We talked with listeners for over a half hour. Here's a little more of the voices of Sioux City, Iowa.
All due respect, Robin, thank you for calling. We're from Iowa. We voted for Trump. Our president was elected. We resent accusations being made without facts. Until the real facts come out and there's proof of anything, we will continue to stand by this man.
The reason that we voted for Trump, my wife and I, is that this man fights back. He doesn't back down. And we love that. We especially talking to the media. And the media is trying to destroy Trump. But it's not happening because he fights back. And the media doesn't know what to do. They never had a person like this before stand up to them. And we're cheering him on. And every day that the media attacks him, we cheer him on even more.
Okay, let me ask you something. For people who, people on the East Coast have seen him a lot in the past through the media and everything, and he was thought of as being, you know, crass. And then we saw that with the tapes that emerged when he talked about women's body parts. And, you know, we see in the Mueller report, he wrote a lie, you know, he dictated a lie to explain why his son had the meeting in the Trump Tower. There are people who can't wrap their brains around, okay, you might like what's happening with the economy, you might like the toughness, but there's a crassness that doesn't square with their vision of Iowa, you know, and the Midwest values, and they have a hard time squaring that. Can you explain that?
I'll try. Is Trump a perfect person, though? Does he have some issues maybe in his personality that a lot of people that rubs him the wrong way? Probably. But the fact that the president, representing the vast majority of our values, he doesn't back down. And the other thing, almost insignificant. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
He supports pro-life, which is my biggest thing, and he stands up and fights back on that.
Mm-hmm.
He supports cutting taxes, which is another big thing. He supports having a strong military. These things are monstrous in terms of what we want. The man can be crass, but he's crass in the way that we love it. We love it.
Let me interpret it. Let me
Great,
and asking for Greg and for me, Robin, since when did it become a problem? Because you're not presidential, in quotes. Because that's what he's not acting presidential. I'm not sure what presidential, in quotes, means. Does it mean you don't use four-letter words? Does it mean you don't get in the face? Does it mean you don't get direct?
It means you want your 8-year-old son to admire it. I think that's what it means.
There's a time and place. You know, we feel that President Trump is the last person that's going to help us maintain the country. And similarly, the United States, that's going out the door. That's going out the door right now.
I hear you.
We're ready to fight.
All right,
Great,
Greg, I
thank
gotta
you.
hold you there.
Charlie, I have to say to you, I so appreciate this time. I know you probably have, what are those things you call them in broadcast? Commercial radio, commercials or something?
It's ugly opportunity.
Well, just to say, last time we talked, it was when Steve King was up there was removed by the GOP House leaders because he made comments about white supremacy. And expressive, and I appreciated them then as well. And afterwards, we got a whole bunch of things, including a letter from one Ann in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, who said, "Hey, please accept this gift from an Iowan who's not in Kings Fourth District." And I'm holding it up. I don't know why I'm holding it up because we're on radio. It's a T-shirt that says, "Dear America, sorry about Steve King. Sincerely, Iowa."
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
So we recognize Iowa's a big state with a lot of big thoughts.
He's back in a run for his life on that front.
I hear you. I think the Democrat and the Republican, Feenstra and Shulton, are both outraising him, I think. So,
Yeah.
hey, Charlie, I hope we can talk again.
Yeah, please.
I appreciate it. So,
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
Thanks, Charlie.
Can teach you the right way.
Charlie, thank you.
See you later, Robin.
An edited version of our visit with Charlie Stone and his open line radio show on KSCJ in Sioux City, Iowa. As he said, listeners who lean decidedly to the right will post our full talk at herenow.org, in which you'll hear more of my responses, but this was a chance to hear their thoughts.